This is a chance for Cabinet Member Decision Day. Charlie. Good morning, and please can I welcome everyone to this meeting of for the Cabinet Member for Place and Local Plan Decision Day, taking place in the Walton Suite in the Guildhall, and the time is 11 o'clock. My name is Councillor Jackie Porter. I'm the Chairperson and Cabinet Member for Place and the Local Plan. And this meeting is being live streamed and recorded to the Council's YouTube channel. Subtitles are available, and advice on how to turn this on is set out on our website. If you're joining us online, please turn your camera and microphone off, please, just to save distraction. And can everybody please ensure their mobile phones are on silent? Thank you. In the unlikely event that it is necessary to evacuate the building, the fire alarm will sound. Please follow all the instructions given to you by our team. And can I welcome councillors who have come to the meeting, Councillor Lerney and Councillor Wallace. I'll invite you forward when it's time for you to make your contribution. Thank you. So turning to the agenda, there's just one item on the agenda today. It's a biodiversity net gain technical advice note. One prime aim of Winchester City Council is to go greener faster. Biodiversity net gain, which is shortened to BNG, is an approach to development that aims to leave the natural environment in a measurably better state than it was beforehand. BNG is currently voluntary under the National Planning Policy, and this council actively works on this with our developers at the moment. But it will become mandatory for developers to deliver under the Environment Act, hopefully by November 2023. This technical advice note allows the council to clearly apply the BNG, the biodiversity net gain, in a constructive, consistent manner that fits in with the national guidance on what's expected when it becomes mandatory at national level. So I'm going to ask Rick Smith, who's our ecologist, senior ecologist, to just give a small précis of the actual paper. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Porter. Yeah, on top of what you've said, here to just introduce the report for this TAN. And important to say that we're introducing this as a technical advice note, not actual SPD. But yeah, as you've mentioned, this is an interim technical guidance note on biodiversity net gain, really for use for the Winchester City Council officers and developers on how they can assess relevant planning applications for biodiversity net gain. And when I say relevant, that's which ones are applicable. So the TAN goes into the detail on this, that it's householder applications are not relevant for this, not applicable. So it's your larger from 1 to 9, and then from 10 plus. There are some other details which I've got actually in the technical advice note here, but they are the applications. Overall, the technical advice note sets out these procedures under the Town and Country Planning Act. And the aim is to have a 10% uplift in biodiversity, and this is in line with Natural England guidance. So again, we are in line with the mandatory guidance, which is coming in from November onwards. So this provides that the information in the interim period to fit in side by side with that, allowing developers as well as officers that ease of use. So there's not going to be any major changes. Sorry, there you go again. So the only other thing to mention as well is that this biodiversity net gain approach overall is something that will work alongside normal ecological considerations in a planning application. So it's another tool which assesses habitats, but our normal assessment will absolutely still be a part of a planning application, as well as protected species considerations, which will still stand.
That's really important. Thank you. Councillor Wallace, did you want to speak? I'd like to come forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. At the end of last year, the world agreed on a historic package of measures deemed critical to addressing a dangerous loss of biodiversity and restoring natural ecosystems. This included a goal to ensure that all ecosystems are maintained, enhanced or restored, and that human-induced extinction of known threatened species is halted. The abundance of native wild species is increased to healthy and resilient levels. The situation is particularly bad in Britain. Since the Industrial Revolution, Britain has lost nearly half of its biodiversity. The country is ranked in the bottom 10% in the world, 189th out of 218, and the worst among G7 nations. The technical advice note that's being reviewed today is aimed at preparing both council officers and developers for the incoming requirement under the Environment Act for a 10% improvement in biodiversity on new developments. However, there is no new government funding for implementing these requirements, so the additional work falls onto an already stretched council planning and NERT teams. There is therefore a risk that the biodiversity net gain will become a tick box exercise only, which is to no one's benefit. And it's critical to ensure that the council is not complicit in the biodiversity equivalent of greenwash. Alongside these risks, there are also opportunities. The Environment Act also requires Hampshire Council to produce a local nature recovery strategy. And at the end of this year, Hampshire Council will start on stage 1, which is the mapping and collating of data. Winchester Council needs to work alongside Hampshire on this activity so that this ties in with the biodiversity net gain activities here, and so that we can maximise opportunities for nature protection and restoration in our district. Obviously, as Greens, we're particularly interested in biodiversity, so we're here to support if needed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And because you mentioned Hampshire County Council, I have to declare a personal but non-prejudicial interest, because I'm also a county councillor. So, but thank you for your comment. And we'll address some of those points in Mr. Smith's response. Thank you. Councillor Lerney, would you like to come and speak? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Porter. As planning guidance, this has come to Councillor Porter's Cabinet Member for Place and Local Plan Decision Day. But I think it's important to emphasise that this is very much a natural environment team document aimed at getting the best possible result for nature out of new development. The Council is taking a proactive approach in getting this guidance into place prior to it becoming mandatory, in order to avoid developers treading their own paths. I very much welcome the emphasis on early engagement with the Council, the avoidance of biodiversity loss, and on-site rather than off-site mitigation. As we know, quality rather than quantity is vitally important in this area. While making it easy for individual householders doing minor works, for anything larger, the guidance is clear that identikit solutions aren't acceptable, and each site has to be considered individually with relation to not only its own but the surrounding environment, looking, for example, at the wider potential to improve and create wildlife corridors, which very much fits into Hampshire's work on the local nature recovery strategy. There are workload implications arising from the new duties, as the paper makes clear, and we will need to look at how we manage our existing natural environment work alongside assessing incoming planning applications, but that is something that we're very much aware of. So I'd like to thank officers for their work on this and very much welcome getting guidance in place sooner rather than later. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lerney. And we know that we work very closely together on every single aspect of the plan and how we use our land right across the district. It's a day-to-day conversation, which I think we really appreciate, the whole team from the NERT team. So thank you very much. Mr. Smith, I just wanted to touch on a couple of points, actually. One was, we've talked about the challenge of the cost of this work, but we believe it's important. It's something we need to put with our council's resources towards. But I just wanted to talk about the work that's gone in the paper. You've obviously done some consultation. Would you like to outline that? And just talk again about this household developer relationship and how it doesn't affect a single householder, but it does if a developer is developing even from one property. So could you just talk about those two, the consultation and the sort of developer relationship?
Sure. Thank you. So yeah, the consultation process as part of the TAN. So this has been quite a long time coming. We have been working on it for a while. It's been internal consultations amongst various teams of officers within the team, as well as members. So we've had obviously natural environment team, planning, strategic planning, estates, special maintenance, so quite a wide input into this to get input from different all different areas of the council. So I think that's been really valuable. We've also been part of a Hampshire-wide steering group, which started informally as a forum on this. So it started with local ecologist groups and then expanded a bit further. There's quite a good big involvement now, but that's really important because with Test Valley, with all East Hants, all of our other neighbours, we want to have that consistency if possible. We want to make it easier for developers not to just come up against the wall, have those differences. So we've had that consultation with them all the way through, and that's continuing now with other plans. We've got sort of involvement with Push as well now. That's developed into that sort of thing on net gain. As you said, Councillor Porter, that importance we realise of net gain. It's one of the biggest things from an ecology and biodiversity point of view we've had in a long time, and we've had the mention of the local nature recovery strategy, which is going to be then that next step where we'll be working with HCC massively. And then on the other side of it, the sort of the householder versus the larger developers. So again, I think it's important to mention again that the TAN and biodiversity net gain is about habitats, so it's not about species. So it's applicable for those larger sites, but the smaller sites, your householder applications, we believe, and again, it's following national guidance, that we can still have some really good improvements on site to provide biodiversity enhancements. So we've got, as part of the TAN, recommendations and a mechanism to actually put in these enhancement measures, and we're talking about things such as bird boxes, bat boxes, types of things you can do in the garden, so hedges rather than fencing, and hedgehog tunnels, all of these smaller things which do add up to make really big benefits for biodiversity overall.
A very personal one here. When we did some work at our house, swallows used to nest, so we made sure that that particular site was protected and everything else was built around it. They still come back 25 years later. So, and they've got very tiny, little tiny eggs, and they have to fly thousands of miles. It's amazing. I think it's that natural wonder that brings it home to you.
Yeah, if I might add to that as well, actually, I mean, it's not as part of the TAN, but part of the natural environment team work we do with the housing and development team, with our property services, is with Hampshire Swift Group, and we introduce, when we're doing re-roofing works, we introduce a Swift box on every building that we're working on. And we know that a lot of those are already occupied, and we've been doing that for the last 2 or 3 years now. So it's a really good success story, and small measures, but actually does have quite a big impact for species like that.
Thank you. So hopefully, one authority we didn't talk about actually was the South Wales National Park, that also operate this same scheme. So we are completely aligned across Hampshire, which you mentioned, which is really good to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, especially with South Downs, who we work really closely with, and obviously cover the same area. Yeah, we worked with them on the TAN, and they've been consulted on this as well. So they've looked at the TAN. It fits in line with them. We went out to sorry, that's one thing I omitted to say actually as well. We as well as going out to South Downs and others, we went out to certain agents as well as via the planning process. So there's an agents forum, and we went out to them for feedback as well, and that's been incorporated into the TAN as well.
That's a very useful part of the training towards this work. which they'll all have to take. So it's a very short decision, but it's taken a lot of work to get to this, and I really want to appreciate the team and your work on this. Thank you very much indeed. The decision is that the Biodiversity Net Gain Technical Advice Note, as interim guidance in respect of the assessment of relevant planning applications by the Council as local planning authority, be approved. And I'm very happy to approve that decision. Thank you.